Vincent Otse was not a man who blended in. Towering at nearly 6 feet 5 inches, with skin as dark and radiant as polished ebony, he walked with the calm confidence of a man who knew who he was and what he stood for. He was born in the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, in the heart of a neighborhood where dreams were either crushed by poverty or hardened into something sharp enough to pierce through it. Vincent's dreams were the latter. From a young age, Vincent exhibited a fire for justice. As a teenager, he would speak up during community meetings, unafraid to challenge older men and women when he felt they were turning a blind eye to corruption. His voice, deep and commanding, often silenced the noise around him. People began to call him the Voice, and even when they didn't agree with him, they listened. Vincent studied law at the University of Ibadan, determined to equip himself with the tools he needed to make a difference. He graduated with honors and immediately began working pro bono, representing those who couldn't afford legal counsel. His first major case involved a group of market women who had been unfairly evicted from their stalls by local government thugs. He won that case, and the women returned to their market with their heads held high. But with victory came enemies. Vincent was not naive. He knew that shaking the foundations of power would draw attention, and not all of it good. Still he pressed on. In 2015, Vincent founded the People's Voice Foundation, an NGO that provided free legal aid, food supplies, and shelter to victims of police brutality, domestic abuse, and homelessness. It didn't take long for his name to spread beyond Lagos. People from every corner of Nigeria began seeking his help. He traveled to remote villages, crossed rivers in wooden canoes, and slept in modest huts, all in the service of others. His fame and influence attracted the ire of those who benefited from the oppression of others. Corrupt politicians, police officials, and even criminal syndicates saw him as a threat. The first arrest came in 2017. He had exposed a fraudulent housing project that had displaced over 200 families. The government accused him of inciting public unrest. He spent 3 weeks in a grimy prison cell where cockroaches were more plentiful than food. But the people rallied. Protests erupted in cities across the country. Hashtags bearing his name trended on social media. International organizations demanded his release. When he finally emerged from prison, gaunt but unbroken, he addressed a crowd of thousands. "You can imprison the man, but you cannot imprison the truth. You can chain my hands, but you cannot chain the will of the people. We will not stop until justice is done." That moment galvanized a movement. Young Nigerians, inspired by his courage, began volunteering with his foundation. Lawyers offered their services. Celebrities spoke out in his favor. Donations poured in from within and outside Nigeria. Vincent's second arrest came in 2019. This time, he had uncovered a trafficking ring allegedly linked to high-ranking officials. He was taken at night, without a warrant, and held incommunicado for 5 days. The government denied having him in custody. His team sprang into action. They filed a lawsuit, contacted international human rights bodies, and organized a digital campaign that reached millions. The pressure was immense, and eventually the truth surfaced. Not only was Vincent released, but the ring was exposed, and several officials were indicted. Through it all, Vincent remained humble. "I am not a hero," he would often say. "I am a man doing what must be done." But heroes do not wear capes. They wear courage like armor, and Vincent wore his boldly. His darkest days came in 2020, during the End SARS protests. The movement, aimed at ending police brutality, swept through Nigeria like wildfire. Vincent was at the forefront, organizing safe houses, coordinating legal defense, and giving impassioned speeches that drew the nation's attention. When the Lekki toll gate massacre occurred, Vincent was one of the first on the scene, documenting what he saw, broadcasting it live, risking his life to show the world the truth. The government tried to silence him again. This time they froze his bank accounts, blacklisted his NGO, and sent threats to his family. But Vincent stood firm. He went underground for a time, working from safe houses, but his message never wavered. If I fall, another will rise. We are many. We are one voice. Despite the pressure, Vincent persisted. He filed lawsuits against the government, not for himself, but on behalf of the victims. He testified before international panels and human rights tribunals. He pushed for police reform, and while change came slowly, it came. The Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, was disbanded. Compensation schemes were set up for victims. A human rights oversight committee was established, and Vincent was appointed as one of its members. By 2023, Vincent had become a national icon. Schools taught his story. Murals were painted in his honor. His foundation expanded into other African countries, offering training to young activists and legal aid to the oppressed. And yet, Vincent remained the same, living in a modest apartment, taking the bus to work, eating umla from street vendors, always accessible, always listening. The turning point came in 2024. A constitutional amendment proposed to limit freedom of expression in the name of national unity. It was a veiled attempt to stifle dissent. Vincent led the resistance, organizing nationwide town halls, collaborating with musicians, artists, and technocrats to awaken the public. He drafted counter-legislation and rallied lawmakers who still had a conscience. In a historic session broadcast live, the National Assembly voted against the amendment. The chamber erupted in cheers. Outside, thousands danced in the streets. Vincent, watching from the gallery, smiled quietly. "We did it," he whispered. Now, in 2025, Vincent Otse stands as a beacon of what one determined soul can accomplish. His victories were not just legal, they were moral, spiritual, and human. He showed that in a world darkened by injustice, even a very dark man can be a light. He often tells young people, "You don't need to be rich to change the world. You need to care." And care he did, deeply, fiercely, tirelessly. Vincent's story is one of resilience, resistance, and remarkable triumph. He stood tall in the face of adversity, and in doing so, helped millions find their voice. He may have been arrested, beaten, and threatened, but in the end, Vincent Otse emerged victorious, not just for himself, but for a nation that found hope in his courage. And that is how the very dark man became the brightest star in Nigeria's fight for justice.